Joining us now, Joe DiGenova, legal analyst, former U.S. Attorney to the District of Columbia. Joe, happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
All right, Joe, lots to get to with you. Speaking of Amy Coney Barrett, let's start off with her, the president nominating her to the Supreme Court. Does the left launch a Kavanaugh-style attack on her, and if so, will it backfire on them?
Probably they're not going to be able to launch the kind of attack that they launched against Brett Kavanaugh, because she's a much different story and a much more sympathetic candidate. But they're having conflicts inside the Democratic Party about how to do this. Some of them want to attack her on her religion. Some of them want to attack her on recusal, not voting on any cases involving the election if she's elevated to the court. I think the biggest sign of all was Dick Durbin over the weekend saying that they can delay it perhaps a little bit, but it's basically over. Durbin is a vicious partisan. He's one of the nastiest people in the United States Senate. He's very smart tactically and strategically. He appears to have thrown in the towel because I think he fears the anti-Catholic rhetoric could destroy their hopes of taking over the Senate. So when it comes to the big casino, which is the Amy Coney Barrett nomination, I think the Democrats are settled in that they're going to nibble on the edges of recusal, and that'll be about it. If they go after her on Catholicism, the Republicans will keep the Senate.
Yeah, of course. Meanwhile, they've got to keep their rabid base in check during this process. But unfortunately, far too often they go wild no matter what the upper echelons of the Democratic Party tells them to do. Are you pleased with Amy Coney Barrett, the pick? And what can you tell us about her judicial philosophy?
Well, she is a superb selection. She is a Scalia acolyte. She is a fundamentalist in the sense of the original textual meaning of the Constitution. She's lectured on it for 15 years at Notre Dame Law School. I don't have any doubt about that she is the single best qualified candidate available in every category of her life. And so I think it's very difficult to attack her over judicial philosophy or anything like that. Now, that doesn't mean, and it's interesting to go back and look at Kavanaugh, that doesn't mean that a nutbag or a loon like Mazie Hirono, who is a totally unscripted loon in the Senate committee, could go crazy. Kamala Harris, for instance, will she try to make something of it and make herself look important at the hearings? Remember, she's a shallow hack. Kamala Harris is a hack. She finds it almost impossible to resist being a smartass. So I'm hopeful that she will do that in the hearing and help the nominee. But I think basically the president chose wisely. They set this up beautifully with her nomination to the Seventh Circuit and confirmation to the circuit in 2017. Her legal writings are superb. Her law review articles. So she's numero uno on the list, and rightly so.
In response to this, the Democrats are preparing to introduce a bill this week that would limit Supreme Court justice terms to 18 years. It would also limit any sitting president no more than 2 nominations to the Supreme Court in a 4-year period. It's not going to go anywhere. And I think this is a great idea as long as we limit every federal job to have some kind of term limit on it, including congressmen.
Well, this is just silliness. It's completely unconstitutional. Everything is in Article 3. All federal judges, including Supreme Court justices, serve during good behavior, which is a lifetime appointment. You cannot make it into an 18-year appointment and say, oh, no, we're not removing them from the branch. They're going to be able to sit as appellate judges during that time as senior Supreme Court justices. What's really fascinating, and the irony here, is that, as you know, the Democrats and the left have used the courts to make public policy since the 1960s. Their whole life has been about the courts and turning them into left-wing shills for the Democratic Party. The ascension of Amy Coney Barrett, making it a 5-4 definite conservative majority on the court, possibly 6-3 when renegade Roberts once in a while thinks like a conservative, is the end of the great left-wing assault on the American judicial system. This is their worst nightmare. This is worse than a Trump second term because there's nothing they can do about the court except obviously change the Constitution, which isn't going to happen. It's politically and legally impossible.
Now, we have a big case coming on Obamacare November 10th, and what I'm already sensing out of the Biden campaign, Joe DiGenova, is that they'd like to make this the issue on which the campaign is litigated, because they think that in 2018, health care was the winning ticket for the Democrat Party to run on. So if they can continue to do it now in 2020, that could be Joe Biden's ticket into the Oval Office. So there's this case coming November 10th. If Amy Coney Barrett is confirmed by then, she will be able to hear those arguments. What's at stake in that case?
Well, that is the question of whether or not, now that the tax has been struck down, there is anything left of the Affordable Care Act. And the fact is, the act will be dead if the Supreme Court affirms that ruling. We shall see. And then it won't matter what John Roberts thinks, because, as you know, he's the one who turned the decision on its head and ruled against the conservatives and affirmed the Affordable Care Act by saying that the penalty was in fact a tax, which was a ludicrous reading of history and the law and the Constitution. And it was a clear sellout by Roberts. And make no mistake about it, they had attacked Roberts before the ruling came down. And their attacks on him, politically savage attacks, succeeded. And he shifted his vote. The original decision was 5-4 to strike down Obamacare. And then after the attacks mounted on him, he changed his vote literally within the last few days of the publication of the opinion from unconstitutional to constitutional. I think it's very smart what Biden has done and the Democrats to make health care the issue. I think it's important. It's an important issue to the American people. It's very wise to get away from her specifically and deal with health care. The problem is they did that in 2018. In the House, I'm not so sure it worked. What I think happened in the House was too many Republican retirements and vote harvesting in California. And in the Senate, the Republicans picked up seats.
Yes, they did.
So I'm not sure that health care worked in 2018.
Yeah, very interesting. All right, more with Joe DiGenova in just a moment, because we have so many questions about the John Durham report. We have some breaking news over the weekend, and that requires Joe DiGenova's reaction. Hold tight for that. It's 7:15 now. WMAL traffic and weather every 10 minutes. First on the fives. Here's Lisa Baden in the Hadid.
Yeah, Joe, I turned on the television yesterday, and Fox is on, and there's Maria Bartiromo, and she's telling me how she's been told that the Durham report is not going to be made public. We'll hear nothing before the election because it would be considered too political to do so. And I thought, of course. I just think that I don't know. If Joe Biden wins, we don't hear anything from the Durham investigation. Period. End of story. It's buttoned up, and we're done. What do you make of this? I'm so annoyed.
I don't know, actually. Maria's a pretty good reporter and a good anchor woman. She has some pretty good sources. I'm sure she would not have said it if she weren't convinced of it. I'm not convinced of it, however, because I do think it is possible we could get at least a partial report. The release, for example, of the FBI interview of FBI agent William Barnett was a stunning revelation last week. And that obviously was authorized by Durham because it's so central to his duties. I think the Durham thing is like a Parker Brothers board game for parlors now, and anybody's guess is as good as anybody else's. Durham's a serious guy. I've always felt that he and Barr will do what they have to do, and they're not going to worry about time limitations. But, who knows? I mean, at this point, all bets are on and all bets are off.
Also, as Mary and I were talking about this earlier, Joe, I was thinking, I'm not sure who else would be changed politically at this point by any release from John Durham. Although, of course, the American people deserve to know every scintillating detail. At this point, we know enough to conclude that there was indeed a massive scandal going on in the Obama-run FBI among the people during the Obama years and then in the follow-on years during the Trump administration.
Well, first of all, let's make no doubt about it. There was a coup against the candidate Trump, a coup against the interregnum Trump, and a coup against President Trump. There isn't any doubt about that. Anybody who doubts that, like the people at the New York Times and the Washington Post, they're just idiots. They're partisans. They're Democrats. They're never going to give the president a break. They are perfectly happy to have the Constitution subverted and federal officials commit crimes if it hurts Donald Trump. Now, let's just get that out of the way. That's established, no doubt about it. What we're now looking at are the fine details and whether or not anybody really crossed the line and committed crimes. In my opinion, a large number of people committed crimes, obstructed justice, lied to federal courts. I mean, there just isn't any doubt about that. The question is whether or not you exercise prosecutorial discretion and prosecute people. There's no doubt Comey should be prosecuted. McCabe should be prosecuted. Strzok should be prosecuted. When you get into the intelligence community, there's no doubt in my mind that Brennan started this whole thing from the get-go. But never forget July 5th, 2016, when James Comey exonerated Hillary Clinton in violation of the law. He spit in the face of Loretta Lynch because he knew she was dumb as a post and she was compromised by her meeting with Bill Clinton on the tarmac in Arizona. Bottom line is James Comey started this entire coup way back when in 2016, and they never stopped from that day on. And not a single whistleblower from the FBI and the Department of Justice came forward. And let me just say, the other person who should be indicted is Andrew Weissman for his unconscionable abuse of power as a federal prosecutor. And for people in that department to defend him, like these idiots in the U.S. Attorney's Office in D.C. who resigned from the case because they didn't like the fact that the Attorney General gave them an order to not file the memo on the Roger Stone sentencing that they wanted to file. These people are children. They don't deserve to have the awesome power of an assistant United States attorney. And if I were the United States attorney, I'd fire every one of them and make them litigate to get their jobs.
And Joe, this is what I'm going to say. I agree with everything you've said, but the problem is perception. You've got and Vince knows exactly what I'm going to say because I bang this drum every single day. Unless you get a big report like the Durham report comes out, boom, and there's all this stuff in it. When you have this little drip, drip, drip of the information, the mainstream media ignores it. So people who consume mainstream media or aren't as involved as we are in what's going on in Washington, D.C., they don't know any of this. So there are a lot of people who don't know about the meeting that Joe Biden in the Oval Office where Joe Biden, said, hey, let's get Flynn on the Logan Act. They don't know about all these things. And all they'll say to me is like, well, nobody's gone to jail. So if all these laws were broken, how come nobody's gone to jail? That's what they say. Well, and I look at them and I go, well, because the deep, and then they tune out. They're gone. So without any kind of justice, you can say this all you want, but there's a large portion of the population that doesn't get it.
Well, there's no doubt about that. And when you have the mainstream media in league, in conspiracy with the Democrats and the perpetrators, you're obviously going to have a problem getting a message out to the large part of the American people. That's why we are blessed that we have a Bill Barr and a John Durham who are proceeding apace anyway. So let me tell you something. This is tough work. I've been a United States attorney when I've had the Democratic city of Washington attack me, call me a racist, hold demonstrations on Freedom Square, worry about their drug-addled mayor, and cover for him rather than deal with the needs of the people of the city. So this is tough stuff. It's going to get done, and if the American people don't care, then their democracy and their republic is a mess. So let's see what happens. I still have faith in the process, and I most certainly have faith in Bill Barr and John Durham. But you're absolutely right, Mary. When the mainstream media covers and buries stuff and won't report it and lies about it, even worse, just lies about facts like the New York Times and the Washington Post. Forget CNN and NBC, Chuck Todd, all those idiots. I mean, the fact is we are fighting a massive opposition on the other side, which is perfectly prepared to compromise the Constitution and federal law enforcement in order to get Donald Trump.
But Joe, let me ask you, because we only have like 30 seconds here. Luke's yelling at me. Okay, so then where's the low-hanging fruit? Where's the prosecutions of people who have lied to Congress? Like, I don't know, Julie Swetnick. She was referred for criminal charges. Nothing.
Please.
How come?
Please.
Why don't we
just
at
say
least
something.
see people treated the way Michael Flynn was treated?
Julie Swetnick and all those people, Christine Blasey Ford, who gave false, perjurious
Yes.
testimony to Congress, should have been prosecuted. There should have been grand juries. It should have been done immediately, because otherwise you encourage people to do it again in the future.
Right.
That's
So
what's
why
bad
hasn't
about
it been done?
Don't ask me. I ain't running the shop.
Yeah. But this is my question. I look at that and I'm like, okay, but I'm supposed to have faith in these people, but yet they other people walk, and that's why I don't have a whole lot of faith. So I hope I'm wrong, and I hope you're right.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree
right.
more.
Thank you, Joe DiGenova. Thank you for helping
Thanks,
us navigate
Joe.
these issues every week. We really appreciate that. 724 on WMAL.
Washington's Mall.
It's fabulous.
105.9 FM.
I can't thank you enough.